Something extraordinary is about to happen to you, not in a distant, abstract, someday when the stars align kind of way, but soon, before this month closes, before the calendar turns, and the love that has been quietly rearranging itself beneath the surface of your life is about to break through in a way you did not expect and could not have planned. I need you to stay with me today, because what I am about to walk you through is not a wish, it is a pattern. A psychological pattern that Carl Jung documented across decades of clinical work. A pattern that reveals exactly why breakthroughs cluster at the end of the hardest seasons, and why the timing of what is approaching has nothing to do with accident and everything to do with readiness. Your readiness, his readiness, and the readiness of something larger than either of you. But before I explain what is coming, there is something you need to understand first. Something about what you have already been through that changes the meaning of everything you have felt these past weeks and months. Because the waiting, the confusion, the heavy unresolved aching in your chest, none of it has been wasted. Not a single moment. And I am going to show you exactly why. If this message reached you at this exact moment, there is a reason your soul led you here. To continue receiving these messages when the timing is right, stay close to this space. What arrives next may carry the clarity your heart has been asking for. Let me tell you what I mean, because I know where you have been. I know the shape of it even if you have never spoken it out loud to another living person. There have been nights recently, not dramatic, not the kind anyone would notice, just ordinary nights where you were lying in bed and the room was dark and something in your chest felt too full. Not sadness exactly. Something heavier than sadness, something that does not have a clean name. A knowing that sits between your ribs and refuses to leave no matter how many times you try to reason it away. A knowing that this connection is real and that the distance between you and this person does not match the depth of what exists between you. You have had moments where you almost reached out. Your thumb hovered over his name on your phone. You composed entire messages in your mind. Honest ones, raw ones, the kind of words that would crack something open if you ever actually sent them. But you did not send them, and the restraint cost you something, not because reaching out would have been wrong, but because holding back when your whole body wanted to move forward takes a kind of strength that nobody in your life gives you credit for. Nobody sees that battle, but I see it. You have also had moments of doubt so sharp they startled you. Mornings where you woke up and the first thought was not his name, but the question beneath his name. Does any of this matter to him the way it matters to me? Is he thinking about this at all? Has he already moved on while I am still standing in the same spot? And you sat with that question the way you sit with a bruise you keep accidentally pressing. Not because you want the pain, but because you need to check if it is still there. And it is still there. Every single time you check. There have been afternoons where someone asked you a simple question, "How are you doing?" And you felt the distance between the truth and the answer you gave stretch so wide it almost made you dizzy. You said fine. You smiled. You changed the subject. And beneath all of it, the real answer was something you did not know how to say out loud, because saying it would make it more real than you were ready for. And then there are the quieter moments that nobody talks about. The ones that happen when you are driving, and a certain song comes on, and your hands tighten on the steering wheel, because the lyrics landed on the exact frequency of something you have been carrying, and suddenly the car feels too small to hold it. Or the moments in the middle of an ordinary task, washing dishes, folding laundry, standing in a grocery store aisle, when a thought of him arrives without warning and your whole body shifts temperature for just a second, before you pull yourself back together and keep moving as though nothing happened. These are the moments that tell the real story, not the dramatic ones, the invisible ones, the ones that prove how deeply this connection has woven itself into the ordinary fabric of your daily existence in ways that no amount of logic or distance can undo. I see you, all of it. And more importantly, I need you to know that everything you have been feeling is not a symptom of something going wrong. It is a symptom of something getting ready. What Carl Jung called the anima mundi, the living soul that connects all things beneath the surface of what we can see, has been preparing something, not randomly, not carelessly, but with the precision of a season that knows exactly when to turn. And that turn is almost here. Now I need to take you deeper, because what I am about to tell you is the part most people never hear, and it is the part that changes everything you think you know about where this connection stands. There is a reason this month matters, not because of a date on a calendar, but because of something that has been building inside both of you, independently, invisibly, relentlessly, that has reached a point where it can no longer be contained. Jung spent his life studying what he called individuation, the process by which a person becomes who they were always meant to be. He discovered that this process does not move in a straight line. It moves in cycles, long, slow, sometimes unbearable cycles of descent and return. There are periods where everything falls apart, where the old self dissolves and the new one has not yet arrived. And Jung gave this phase a name. He called it nigredo, the blackening, the phase of psychological alchemy where everything must be broken down to its raw materials before it can be reassembled into something truer, something more whole, something capable of holding what the old form could not. But here is what most people miss. And this is what I need you to hear with your full attention right now, because if you leave before you understand this, you will carry a misunderstanding that keeps you stuck for months longer than necessary. Jung also discovered that the nigredo is never random, it is never pointless, and it is never permanent. It is the necessary prelude to what he called albedo, the whitening, the phase where clarity returns and new patterns emerge from the wreckage of the old. Every single time, without exception across thousands of documented cases, the darkness is not the end of the story, it is the middle of the story. And you, right now, are standing at the border between the two. What I am about to tell you next changes everything you think you know about his silence. The confusion you have been living in, the not knowing, the mixed signals, the silence that stretches longer than it should. This has not been stagnation. This has been gestation. Something inside him has been going through its own nigredo, his own psychological winter, his own dismantling. And it has nothing to do with whether he loves you. He does. The depth of what he feels for you is precisely what made his descent so severe. Because the unconscious does not waste its energy dismantling what is insignificant. It only tears apart the structures that are not large enough to hold something extraordinary. And what he feels for you is extraordinary. It exceeded the architecture of his old self, and his psyche knew it before he did. When you feel ready, type the words, "My season is turning" in the comments as a way to honor the transition that is already underway in your life. Let me explain what has been happening inside him, because once you see this clearly, you will never interpret his distance the same way again. Jung wrote about a concept he called the senex, the archetype of the wise elder, the internal figure that carries the weight of patience, earned wisdom, and the understanding that some things cannot be rushed without being ruined. When a man encounters a love that is deeper than anything his current emotional architecture can hold, the senex activates inside his unconscious, not to block the love, not to destroy the connection, but to slow it down, to force him to grow before he reaches for what his soul already wants. Because the senex knows, with the ancient knowing that lies deeper than reason, deeper than logic, deeper than anything his conscious mind can access, that if he grasps for something this significant before he is prepared to carry it, he will damage it. And the one thing his unconscious will not allow is damage to the thing that matters most. This is why he has been distant. This is why his behavior has not matched what you know in your bones he feels. He has been under the governance of something deeper than his own choices, something that has been rebuilding him from the foundation upward, so that when he finally moves toward you, he does not arrive half-built, half-ready, half-present. He arrives whole, he arrives transformed. He arrives in a way that can actually sustain what is between you. You might be thinking right now, but what if I am wrong about what he feels? What if the distance really is distance? What if the silence really does mean what silence usually means? I hear that voice inside you, and I want to answer it directly. If what he felt for you were small, manageable, Ordinary, there would be no distance to speak of. Ordinary feelings do not create the pattern you are describing. Ordinary feelings do not make a man reorganize his inner world in silence for weeks or months at a time. Ordinary feelings do not produce the kind of energetic disturbance that wakes you at 3 in the morning with the certainty that something is unfinished. Ordinary feelings pass through a person like weather. What you are witnessing is the opposite of passing. It is deepening. It is taking root in places he did not even know existed inside himself. And deepening in its early stages often looks exactly like withdrawal because the psyche pulls inward when it is doing its most important work. There might also be a part of you whispering something even harder to admit. A part that says, "What if I am the only one who feels this? What if I invented the whole thing?" Let me tell you something about that voice. That voice is not wisdom. It is not self-protection. It is the echo of every time your feelings were too large for the room they were in, and someone made you believe the problem was the size of your feelings rather than the size of the room. Your feelings are not too large. The room is about to get bigger. But I need to tell you the difficult part too, because understanding the complication is what will carry you through the final stretch of this waiting. What has made this so painful, so confusing, so much longer than it needed to be, is that his conscious mind does not know what his unconscious is doing. He feels the pull toward you with a gravity he cannot explain. He feels the weight of the distance like something pressing against his chest. But he cannot articulate why he has been frozen. He might even have told himself stories about it, that he needs space, that the timing is wrong, that he is not ready, that there are practical reasons it cannot work. But these are stories his ego constructed to explain something his ego cannot see. Beneath those stories, the truth is relentless. It pushes against the walls he built the way floodwater pushes against a levee that was never designed to hold this much volume. And pressure, by its nature, always finds a way through. If you feel this resonating in your body right now, type, "The pressure is breaking through" in the comments. Let your words carry the energy of what you know to be true. Here is where the extraordinary part begins, and this is the part I have been building toward since the first sentence of this message. Jung described a phenomenon he called the mysterium conjunctionis, the mystery of union. It is the final stage of the alchemical process, the crowning moment. The point where two elements that have been separated, purified, transformed, and refined independently come back together in a form that is entirely new. Not a return to what was, not a repetition of the old pattern with a fresh coat of paint. Something that has never existed before. Something that could not have existed without the separation, without the pain, without the long, dark winter of not knowing that both of you have endured. This is what the end of this month holds for you, a mysterium conjunctionis, a coming together that has been made possible only because both of you have been transformed by the distance between you. You are not the same woman who entered this waiting period. You are stronger in places that used to buckle, quieter in places where you used to be frantic, clearer in places where confusion used to live like permanent weather, and he is not the same man who pulled away. He has been hollowed out by your absence in ways he is only now beginning to understand and only now beginning to allow himself to feel. When you feel this truth settling into your body, type, "I trust the timing of my life," in the comments as a declaration of faith in the process that has been silently carrying you. But before I tell you what the shift will look like when it arrives, there is one more layer you need to see, because this is the layer that separates the women who receive this transformation fully from the women who accidentally deflected at the last moment without realizing what they have done. Jung believed that the psyche of every individual is connected to something larger, not in a vague, metaphorical, feel-good way, in a structural, functional, observable way. He called this the anima mundi, the soul of the world, the living intelligence that weaves individual destinies into a pattern too vast for any single human mind to comprehend. And the anima mundi does not operate on human schedules. It does not respond to deadlines or demands or ultimatums. It operates on readiness. It delivers the breakthrough not when you want it, not when you demand it, not when your patience runs out, but when the inner conditions of both people have reached the exact degree of maturity required to sustain what is coming. What you have been interpreting as delay has been the anima mundi, waiting for the precise alignment of two souls who needed to be in exactly the right internal position before the connection could manifest in its fullest, most enduring form. Think of it the way you would think of a lock that requires two keys turned simultaneously. One key has been ready for a while. That key is you. The other key has been slowly, painfully, secretly turning inside him. And it is almost in position. Type, "My soul already knows," in the comments if you have felt this quiet anticipation building inside you without any external reason to explain it. This is why you have been feeling something lately that you have not been able to name. Maybe it shows up as restlessness that does not match your circumstances, a sensation in the mornings that something is different in the atmosphere of your life, but you cannot point to evidence, a sudden clarity in a conversation that seemed ordinary, but left you feeling lighter than you had felt in weeks, an unexpected moment of peace in a place where anxiety used to live permanently. These are not coincidences. These are not random good days. These are the advanced signals of a transformation that your unconscious has already registered even though your conscious mind has not yet caught up. Jung called this psychological preparedness, the remarkable capacity of the deeper mind to sense approaching change before it arrives in visible form, the way certain animals sense shifts in weather before the sky shows any evidence of what is coming. Your body knows. Your dreams know. That feeling you cannot explain to anyone, the one that lives beneath your thoughts and whispers at odd hours that something is close. That feeling is not wishful thinking. It is intelligence. It is your psyche doing exactly what it was designed to do, preparing you for what comes next. Type, "Something extraordinary is already here," in the comments, if you can feel in your bones that this is not just hope, but a recognition of something that has already begun. Now let me show you what is about to happen, because I do not want you walking into the most significant shift of your emotional life unprepared to recognize it. The transformation that is coming before this month ends will not arrive the way you might expect. It will not begin with a dramatic confession at your doorstep or a sudden phone call in the middle of the night where everything gets resolved in a single conversation. It will begin with something smaller, something that could almost be overlooked if you are not paying attention. A message that carries a different energy than his usual words, shorter in some ways but heavier, as if something beneath the language has shifted even though the surface words look almost the same. Or an encounter, planned or accidental, where you feel the air between you pulse with something that was not there before. His eyes might hold yours a half-second longer than usual. His voice might drop into a register that tells you his body is no longer following the careful script his mind had written. And in that moment, you will know. Not because anything has been explained, not because he has given you a speech or made a declaration, but because your unconscious will recognize his unconscious the way two frequencies recognize each other when they finally synchronize after months of searching. This is what Jung meant when he wrote that the most profound transformations happen not through intellectual understanding, but through lived experience. The knowing will not come to your mind first. It will come to your body, a warmth behind your sternum, a stillness in the exact place where anxiety used to pace back and forth, a feeling of something clicking into alignment that you have been waiting for without consciously knowing you were waiting. Picture the moment. Not to fantasize, but to prepare. You will be somewhere, it does not matter where, and his energy will shift in a way that makes the air between you feel different, charged, present, as though the room itself has tightened its focus around the two of you, and he will say something, not the grand speech you might have imagined, something simpler, something that sounds almost casual until you hear the weight underneath it. A sentence that cracks open the careful facade he has maintained for so long. And when that sentence lands, you will feel something release inside your own chest that you did not realize you had been holding. Not relief exactly, recognition. The feeling of finally arriving at a place your body has known about longer than your mind has. This is the month that breaks the pattern. This is the month where the nigredo ends and the albedo begins. This is the month where the mysterium conjunctionis completes what it started the moment you first felt something extraordinary move between you and this person. Type, "I am ready for what is mine" in the comments to open yourself fully to what is approaching you right now. What I need you to do between now and then is simpler than you think and harder than it sounds. I need you to hold your ground, not by doing anything dramatic, not by sending the message or making the call or engineering the encounter, by being, by continuing to exist in the fullness and the dignity of who you are without shrinking yourself to fit his timeline, without abandoning your own healing to accelerate his, without mistaking patience for weakness or stillness for surrender, because patience, in the deepest Jungian sense, is not passive at all. It is the most active form of trust that exists. It is the choice to remain whole while the world around you is still assembling itself into the shape it was always meant to take. It is the decision to let the senex, that ancient, patient, immovable wisdom inside you, guide your next steps instead of the urgency that wants resolution right now, tonight, this minute. The urgency is not wrong for existing, it is just early. And the difference between early and wrong is the difference between a seed planted in frozen ground and a seed planted when the soil is warm enough to receive it. Both seeds are real. Both contain the same potential, but only one will grow into what it was meant to become. Do not chase. Do not explain yourself. Do not shrink. Do not perform availability or indifference or any version of yourself that is not the truth of who you are. The version of you that has survived this waiting period, the woman who has held herself together through uncertainty, who has chosen dignity when desperation would have been easier, who has continued to show up for her own life even when part of her wanted to put everything on hold until this resolved. That woman is the one he is being prepared to meet. Not a diminished version, not a desperate version. The full, grounded, luminous version that this season of waiting has forged in you without you fully realizing it was happening. Stay where you are, not because you are waiting for him, but because where you are is exactly where you need to be for the mysterium conjunctionis to complete its work. You are not standing still. You are standing ready. And there is a vast, unbridgeable, sacred difference between the two. The signs that the shift is near will be subtle at first, but unmistakable once you know what to look for. You will notice a lightness in your own mood that has no obvious external cause. Old fears will loosen their grip without you having fought them directly. Conversations that used to trigger spirals of doubt will pass through you like wind through a window you finally remembered to open. These are not random improvements in your mental state. These are the albedo showing itself in your daily life, the whitening after the blackening, the spring after the winter you survived without breaking. And when you notice these signs in yourself, know that parallel signs are occurring inside him. Because the anima mundi does not transform one side of a connection and leave the other untouched. It moves through both at once, the way a single current moves through an entire body of water. His walls are softening in rooms you cannot visit. His resistance is quieting in conversations you are not part of. The rigid story he told himself about why he could not move forward is developing fractures that his conscious mind can no longer repair fast enough to maintain the illusion that nothing has changed. Not because something is breaking, because something is finally being born. If this message stirred something inside you that you want another person to feel, carry it forward. Share it with someone whose heart is also in a season of preparation. By sharing, you extend the reach of a truth that was meant for more than one soul. To continue walking this path, stay close. The next message that finds you may arrive at the exact moment your heart is ready to hear what it carries. Type, "I am ready for my transformation" in the comments as your final declaration of openness to what is already on its way to you. You are not imagining this. You are not making it up. And you are not running out of time. Something extraordinary is already here. Your heart has been prepared. And the love that this month is bringing you will be worth every single moment you spent in the dark. You are ready. You are whole. You are extraordinary.